I'd like to encourage everyone here to learn more about the Foundation and support their work on its website, www.mitochondrialdisease.org, or via Facebook, as you just heard. Kicking off our program here is actress, author, and activist Holly Robinson Peete. Applause, please. I will start by saying this. I'm a fan. I was not supposed to say that, but I'm saying it. I've been a fan. We first got to know Holly through her roles on hit TV series like 21 Jump Street. That was the show. It was so cool. You guys would hang out in a warehouse and solve crime. And I was like, that's how I want to do it. That's exactly how I want to do it. And hanging with Mr. Cooper. I love that show. More recently, she was one of the original co-hosts of The Talk, enjoyed enormous success on Celebrity Apprentice, and is now in the hit comedy series Mike and Molly. Her career as an actress has given her a platform to become a voice for her father, her son, and her community. In 1997, inspired by her father's courageous battle with Parkinson's disease, Holly and her husband, former NFL quarterback Rodney Peete, who I'm also a fan of, formed the Holly Rod Foundation to help improve the quality of life of people with Parkinson's. In 2005, not long after her son was diagnosed with autism, the Holly Rod Foundation expanded its mission to provide support and resources to those affected by autism. She has become a tireless advocate for education, outreach, and support for both Parkinson's and autism. And in 2010, Holly released an NAACP Image Award-winning children's book about autism, co-authored by her daughter, Elizabeth Peete, entitled My Brother, Charlie. I want to hear more about that, because I know how important that is. The book has helped countless children understand what it's like to have a sibling with autism. Tonight, she will share her journey with her father's Parkinson's, her son's autism, and her life as a busy mother, activist, and actress, and we're all delighted to welcome her to our program this evening. Thank you very much for being here. Please join me in a warm Atlanta welcome for Holly Robinson Peete.
Thank you, Fred. You don't look sleep deprived. You look pretty good. Well, thank you so much for inviting me here. And especially I want to thank Fred for that great, beautiful introduction. But Sandra and Laura, thank you. And thank you to everybody at the Foundation for Mitochondrial Medicine, because I do about 12 of these a year. And I have to say, selfishly, I pick and choose ones where I feel I can learn. And this is one that made so much sense, having a father who had Parkinson's and a son with autism, and so the connection was really pretty organic, so thank you so much for that. I'm happy to be here in Atlanta, a city that I absolutely love. Almost moved here a few years ago. Got this close. Love it. Love the Falcons. I'm a football-aholic. Sorry, I just am. It's a sad, sad thing when you love football more than your husband who used to play football. But I just wanted to share a little bit of my journey with you all. Some things you may know, some things you may not know, and then in an effort to get to just share, because I found when I got these diagnoses, both Parkinson's and autism, there weren't a lot of venues and places that I could share this information or just be in a room like this with people who just understood what I was experiencing. So that's my goal being here today. I'm just into the journey. You know, we all have a journey. I tell my kids all the time, everybody has a journey, everybody has a story, whether it's a homeless person on the street or, you know, somebody who's a politician or a doctor. Everyone has a journey, and we try not to be judgmental about each other's journeys because we just don't know sometimes. Okay, so, yeah. Oh, they look cute. No. So in 1997, I was blessed to have twins, and boy-girl twins. And just an amazing experience. I had them while I was in Los Angeles working on a TV show. My husband was playing for the Philadelphia Eagles at the time, and he was supposed to fly back to Los Angeles, where I live, while I was giving birth to them, but he got caught in an overtime game in Philly. And he just barely, by the skin of his teeth, got to LA for the birth of these kids. And I was absolutely, in heaven with, having twins and being married. Just, it was such a blissful time in my life. And then, okay, so in 1999, my oldest twin, who's 2 minutes older, Rodney Jr., or we call him RJ, he was diagnosed with autism. We call that the never day, because there was someone who was a little challenged in her bedside manner, our pediatrician, our developmental pediatrician, who decided, that's as nice as I can say it, who decided that she was going to tell us that the things he would never do. He would never, do a number of things, everything from ever say I love you to ever have meaningful conversation, friends, you name it. So here's Rodney and I sitting here, having this conversation with this lady who told us all these nevers. So that was a rough day. Now, as parents, I love these pictures of these animals because I love animals, but they're innately connected to their kids. They don't go to PTA meetings, they don't have potlucks, they don't read any manuals, they just connect with their children. And, as a mom, I was so connected to my kid, and all I wanted to do was protect him. So now I'm just going to play for you a little video to give you a little bit more of the story, because no one tells it better than my daughter, who actually produced this little video, homemade video, about her brother. I think it's going to come.
My name is Rodney Jackson Peete. Some people call me RJ, but I like Rodney better. When I was 3, a doctor told my mom and dad I had autism. Autism means I have a brain that is different. I did not really speak too well until I was 6. I did not really make friends. I cried a lot. I felt weird in my body. People don't understand my world. It was hard. Can you imagine feeling something but not being able to say it? Mom and Dad did everything for me to get me better. Thankfully, they could do that. I wish other kids could do some things I could do now. A lot of families do not have enough money to help their kids get better. That makes me sad. I wish there was a place where you could go and not pay and get help. I like the NBA and the MLB. I could tell you all the players' names on every team, but I really have a hard time making friends. The doctor said I would never play team sports. Wrong. Never give up. The doctor said I would never make friends. Wrong.
You gotta have hope.
The doctor said I would never say I love you on my own, but I do all the time. My twin sister wrote a book about autism. I'm so proud of her. My mom and I wrote a song about autism. Wanna hear it? I may have autism, but autism doesn't have me.
Sweet. The wrongs were courtesy of the 2 little brothers who have become amazing little therapists. Nothing's more therapeutic than an annoying little brother to get you to start talking. Well, autism in America, a lot of you guys know a lot of this information. 1 in 88 children, the prevalence keeps jumping higher and higher. And, more children diagnosed with autism than AIDS, juvenile diabetes, and cancer combined. And in the African American community, in some communities, I find it very disturbing that so many children are diagnosed really late, 2 to 5 years later than other communities. And I speak to a lot of African American churches, trying to get them to really talk about in their congregations the children that have autism, because we tend to be in denial about that. The crushing financial burden, I'm sure you all know about. The emotional toll is really difficult. Divorce is very prevalent in families affected by autism, and my husband and I were no exception. My daughter Ryan came up with the idea of this Autism 101. She wanted to go to school and have a conversation because she said the kids didn't understand what autism was. So she said, okay, listen, you and Dad go in and have this conversation. And, my husband's played, football in front of millions, and, I've, been in front of crowds like this and bigger, but nothing was scarier than talking to 50 fourth graders. That was so scary, and my palms sweat just thinking about it. But because, they're like, what are you going to tell us? They know everything. So Ryan gave us these bullet points to just smooth it out a little bit. First, of course, she said never say anything embarrassing. Level the playing field, because the idea is that the children at school didn't understand what autism was. And if you sort of say, okay, what is it you guys do well and what are you not very good at? And some kids say, oh, I'm really good at baseball, but I suck at math. I'm really good at science, but I'm terrible at hockey. And we said, well, Rodney is so good at memorizing things. He's amazing. He can tell you every president from 1 to 44, the vice president, what year they went in office, you name it. He can tell you every player on the MLB, NBA, NFL, even the hockey players with those crazy Russian names. He can tell you all these, but he has a hard time making friends. And it was like watching this fog lift when they heard that. So sometimes just leveling the playing field helps. Tell them about patience, sense of humor, and sometimes I find it interesting that it was harder to explain to the parents about autism than it was to the kids. So my brother Charlie was created. It's a book I'm so proud of. When I pitched this book to all these publishing companies, several of them said, well, it's a niche book, not that many people would buy it. Only families affected by autism. I said, well, if only families affected by autism bought this book, you got a bestseller, because there are a lot of families affected by autism. But the book has really been impactful, and teachers have used it as a tool in the classroom, and it's been really great. So I'm so proud of it. Obviously, we wanted to talk about how siblings are impacted, but we wanted to talk about how autism has a stigma that needs to go away. And the earlier you talk to these children, the better. No book existed like this, so we said, well, we need to write this, and it's been, like I said, a beautiful experience. So because I like to keep a happy home, I got to talk about my husband's book, too. Equal time. He is an ex-quarterback, as you heard Fred say, and he played for 16 years in the NFL. And during the time when we were getting his diagnosis, he went into a deep, deep denial. I like to say that he was on Denial Street and I was on Kick Somebody's Butt Avenue. Because my sleeves were rolled up and he was entrenched in this place of not my boy, not my son. Why is my son? Why is this happening? I'm going to discipline it out of him. I'm going to talk to him. He was searching for answers, and it was really hard for him to make this journey to acceptance. And it was a beautiful story how he got there. And thank God he did, because I was very frustrated. I would dog-ear pages and highlight books so he didn't have to go through everything. And I'd put them in a package and say, with big signs, read this. And then I'd go to his football city, wherever city he was playing, and I'd find the package unopened under the bed, not even touched. So, that didn't go over too well. And what I realized is that he really had a hard time because he had set such high expectations for who his son was going to be. And the fact that he was able to overcome that is a real beautiful journey. So that is husband's book. The Holly Rudd Foundation was a foundation that we started, you heard, in 1997 when my father was diagnosed with Actually, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's in the 80s, but we started Holly Rudd in 1997. We do some great things. Parkinson's disease is something that families really struggle with. And we started a compassionate care program at University of Southern California, which is Rodney's alma mater, and families can come in that neighborhood that are impacted by Parkinson's and get the help that they need. Our goal is to have a similar center like that for autism, a compassionate care center for families affected by autism, because many of you guys that are affected by it know that you have to go to therapies in 8 different places. And LA is like Atlanta, everything's spread out, and it's very hard to find one spot that has everything that you need. And so our goal is to start this Compassion Care Center. We have a great partner in Cal State Northridge, and our goal is to open up on all the Cal State campuses and eventually in Philadelphia, our hometown, and have this be the model for families to go to. Because we want not just the therapies, the ABA, the Fuller Times, and all those default therapists, but we want a place where families can go get therapy for siblings, and have a place for siblings to do homework, and have therapies that you can try that you may not be able to afford, like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which has been very effective for us. And we want this all under one roof. So we're working very hard to make that happen. The Gift of Voice is a program that we have at Hollyride, which we're so proud of. We raise money, we get tablets for kids and applications for them to learn to communicate. These kids have so much to say, and it's so hard for them to express themselves. So that's been a really gratifying program. And right now we've given many iPads out, but we're moving on to a new tablet company because, God bless them, Apple's just a little philanthropically challenged. I don't mind saying that, because maybe it'll motivate them to give away more of them. But we have started a partnership with a company called Nabi, and Nabi makes a tablet that it's like an iPad for kids, and their #1 mission is autism. So they're going to be giving us $1 for each tablet sold up to $2 million. So that's really huge for us, and so excited for that, because we know that these children have so much to say, and a lot of them, like my son, was blessed to get language, but a lot of them will not. So they need a way to express themselves. So my dad was my philanthropic inspiration. He was the original Gordon on Sesame Street. Some of you in the room will remember him because he was the one with the big pork chop sideburns. And he was on Sesame Street so long that Oscar was orange when he started. And clearly Big Bird didn't have all his head feathers yet. So he was a real pioneer in television, public television, and it was a really beautiful time. You can imagine being 5 years old and your dad having this gig. I mean, that was huge. And all I wanted was to be on the show. He had this thing about child actors and kids in showbiz. And all I wanted was to be on the show. And I begged him, please, I finally got on. I had one line. I blew my one line. I was supposed to say, hi, Daddy, or sorry, hi, Gordon. See, I'm still blowing the line. I still can't get it. Psychologically, I can't do it. And I kept saying, hi, Daddy, instead of hi, Gordon. And anyway, so I got fired from that gig. But he was an amazing guy. And I was a freshman in college in 82, 83-ish. And my dad showed up at campus. I went to school in New York called Sarah Lawrence. And my dad showed up. And he had this limp in his knee. And I was like, what is that, Daddy? And he's a comedy writer, too. At the bottom is a picture of him with Bill Cosby. He wrote and produced The Cosby Show, all 8 or 9 seasons. Yeah, so really amazing, brilliant guy. And he was limping, but he was a jokester, always cracking jokes. And so I said, Daddy, why are you limping? And he said, don't worry about that. Just do well in college. Because I looked like he was walking like Fred Sanford. He used to write for the Sanford and Son. So I said, why are you walking like Fred Sanford? He said, just focus on your college or you'll be running a junkyard too. Trying to be funny, but when I went home for Christmas, I discovered that he had a case of Bell's palsy, and then he ended up getting diagnosed with Parkinson's. Now, this was in the 80s, no Michael J. Fox, no Muhammad Ali, and no Google. So there I was in the microfiche, remember microfiche, microfilm, trying to get information on Parkinson's, which was only classified as neurological and incurable at the time. So it was a very difficult journey with Parkinson's, but I wanted to help my dad in ways that I felt only I could. And so he was the one that inspired between myself and Rodney to start Hollyride, and this was before we even had kids. So I'm still so thankful to him. He's been gone for 10 years, but so thankful to him for instilling that and leading me to a life of service. And so sharing is healing. I mean, you have to share your story. Not every celebrity family is open to doing this. But we had a big kitchen table conversation with my husband and my kids about how much should we talk about this My husband was concerned about labeling his son, the kid of the football player and the actress, and you know, will he be this kid that had autism and be labeled all that way his whole life? So we had a conversation, and we had a kitchen table, and I won the argument because I win every argument at the house, and you know that's true, and so, because we knew that the pros outweighed the cons. We knew that the pros were, we had a platform, we had big mouths, we were, you know, we were people that could have this conversation. Because I'll tell you, when we got our diagnosis, there was no one talking about it. We went out into the room and we got the diagnosis, we're crying, we're all in distress, and life is over. And if we had looked at a People magazine or saw an episode of Oprah and seen a family saying, you know what, it gets better, have hope, have hope, have hope, that would have made a big difference in our journey. So we wanted to provide that. I love parental advocacy. I always say that when they see you come in, if they roll their eyes and you know you've done your job. and you know, here she comes again. You know, and you have to be a big giant pain in the you know what. You have to, because nobody, and I mean nobody's going to advocate for your child better than you will. And you know that. All the IEP meetings. You know, people say, well, how did you do so well in Donald Trump's boardroom? I said, because I've been to IEP meetings. They ain't nothing. I'm like, please. I'm not scared of that guy. I sat in front of the school board. But there are so many things that we have to be aware of, whether it's a special needs trust, you know, just really just getting everything lined up for this child in the future. And now he's 15. Now we're experiencing adolescence. And we know that neurotypical adolescence is difficult, but adolescence, when you have a kid on the spectrum, is especially tough. And so that's where we are right now, and we have hurdles. We definitely have hurdles. So it's a family affair. That's our motley crew. We got a big group, starting 5 plus an extra backup, and we've been blessed to have kids and who really are connected with what their brother's going through, and we are so happy that they're advocates for him, because as you know, every mother of a child, whether it's mitochondrial, autism, cerebral palsy, you always fear, oh my gosh, when I'm gone, what's going to happen? And you want to build a team around your child, and even if you don't have a bunch of kids like us, whether there's aunts, uncles, cousins, you want to build that team up. This is just a statement that I live by. If you don't stand up for children, you don't stand for much. Marion Wright Edelman is one of my favorite. She's one of my heroes, a child advocate who's so amazing. You know, I feel like my journey has been something that God gave me, and He said, you know, look, you have to talk about this for whatever you provide. And the best thing that I've seen out of this is that, you know, remember that kitchen table conversation that I won? My son now understands that he is an autism advocate. He gets that, and that connection, that revelation is so powerful. To go from a kid who couldn't talk to understand how important he is in this fight and giving information. And we were recently at Disneyland, and a family walked up to us and said, hey, thank you so much for having this conversation with everybody, because it really helped us. And he had two girls in the spectrum, very low functioning, nonverbal. And the girls were there, and he said, these are my daughters, and we want to meet RJ. And they shook RJ's hand, and it was such a really nice moment. And I said, thank you. We hugged it all out, and then they walked away. And then RJ said, Mom, why'd they want to meet me? And I said, because you helped them, son. With your story, you helped them. Because I have autism? I said, yeah, you shared your story of autism, and it was really helpful to so many people. He goes, does that make me a hero? I said, yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, it kind of makes you a hero. He goes, that's cool. I said, yeah, that does. And it's a very, very cool thing to share your story. And that was all really sweet. And then later on that night, I went home and I found some pizza under his bed that had been there for, I mean, it had a halo of afro of mold on the pizza. And I started getting at him like, I told you not to eat it, you know, in your room. And why did you bring that upstairs? And why is that under your bed? I told you. Why did you do that? He said, because I have autism. Said, I see how you're doing, you know. But he, you know, you little slick jokester now, working the A card. But the reality is that he gets it, and we all get it as a family. And I come to these events because I want to share my story, but I also come for information. And there is a panel of amazing doctors who, you know, I'm just not worthy, who are going to give the real information out about the connection. And you know I'm wide open because I have a father with had Parkinson's, and my son with autism, and genetically I want to know everything I can get to get back out there and give that information. So on that note, I want to thank you so much for listening to me, being such a warm room. And I'm absolutely warm, but I'm shivering. I'm so cold. You're a warm room. It's just the air conditioning's on. And I'm just so thankful to all of you who come out and either, whether you're here to advocate for your child or someone you love, or because you want to share information or just get information, this is how we all learn and we all connect. So I thank you so much, and I'm so proud to have been a part of your first inaugural event. Thank you so much.
Holly, thank you very much. And do you see why I've been a fan all these years? Isn't she great? Come on. And she brought up one thing I thought was very important, and we do have a lot of esteemed researchers and doctors in here today. And but I was told about a year ago, or whenever it was, that it's going to be a parent who eventually finds the way. Because nobody cares more. And then what happens? So parental advocacy, fantastic. When they roll their eyes, you're right. You're doing the right thing. Holly, your desire to help educate and advocate for Parkinson's and autism are truly an inspiration to all of us here. And I think let's raise the roof one more time for her.